The Jerry Agar Show continues on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
So here's an interesting press release that came out with some information on disability. Disability claims for workplace burnout rising for first responders. Burnout disability claims are less likely to receive approval and more likely to be prematurely terminated. Joining me to talk about this, Nainesh Kotak, founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law. Good morning.
Good morning, Jerry. Thanks for having me on.
Now, are you saying that burnout disability less likely to be approved for first responders or just for anybody who says my problem is burnout?
Yeah, probably in general, quite frankly. When we deal with sort of mental illness issues, whether it be anxiety, depression, or burnout, they're invisible to the extent that, you can't find them on a scan. They're much more easy to readily deny them. With first responders, you've got often less reporting too by the individual because of the culture of, and I don't want to say I'm going through these things, right? So you've got that hurdle to deal with in the first place, and then you have insurance companies who can readily deny those claims on the basis of insufficient medical evidence, again, because of the difficulty in proving the case when you have a mental illness.
Well, I know that whenever we talk about these kinds of things and we talk about people who are police officers, firefighters, paramedics, nurses, doctors, I'll get people who will text into the show and they will say, hey, that's the job you picked. What did you think?
You're right in a certain extent, but people are individuals, right? And it is the job they picked, and most do a fantastic job and are able to continue with their careers. But everybody's an individual, and as they go through life, maybe in certain their personal life experiences or what they have to deal with and see on the job, particularly during these pandemic times with shortages and with the stress they deal with, it's to be expected that there are going to be depression and anxiety claims. We're not robots, right? So I think I would counter that by saying, listen, have a heart, buddy.
Well, you're saying that there's a lot of burnout right now with people in those jobs. I think part of it is because, like with some other professions, numbers of people are not coming to work. They've either been laid off because they refuse to get vaccinated, or some of them are sick. And so for a short period of time, at least, they're not coming to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, that's one of the issues we're seeing in hospitals right now. It's not simply the COVID patients because, as we know, we're hearing about how many are actually there for COVID and how many are there just incidentally diagnosed. One of the problems we're having is people are not able to work because this variant is spreading so quickly, and you got to stay off, right? So there obviously are staffing issues as well that makes it much more difficult for those who are willing and able to get to work, obviously, yeah.
All right, I'm talking to Nainesh Kotak, founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law. Let's take a look at this from the other side. How does an employer know that somebody really is burned out and needs help, or somebody is just trying to not come to work?
Look, I think you got to sometimes give people the benefit of the doubt, particularly professionals who are first responders and who have had, a history, obviously, of working hard and working in emergent situations. Often medical evidence is produced and required that will show, from whether it be from a specialist or their doctor, that this is what they're going through. These are the accommodations they will need. And there has to be, I think, that dialogue and mutual respect and communication. Look, employers don't want situations where people would sort of, may take advantage of it and just stay home and collect some benefits. But, I don't know if there's strong evidence that is occurring on a rampant basis. I think most claims are in fact legitimate.
Oh, I don't know. I think why is it that there are some areas like public service, for instance? I'll leave police and the medical profession out of that right now. But, just sort of generalized bureaucrats seem to take a lot more days off than the rest of society. Why is that?
Well, aren't they given that many? A lot of, if you want to look at
that doesn't mean they're sick.
Yeah, but many of them have these. They're forced to take vacations too. As we can get in that debate, but a lot of government workers, in fact, Jerry, through their collective agreements, in fact, have so many days off to begin with, right? So it may seem like they're taking advantage, but many times they're told that you got to take your vacation days, right? So
We're not talking about vacation days. We're talking about calling in sick, and it's quantifiable that it's higher within the public system. And I only bring it up because I'm countering your assertion that it is rare for people to claim they're sick when they're not. I don't think it is rare.
Well, Jerry, let's be clear. I was talking about first responders, right?
Right.
And people who have shown diligence in their work throughout their careers in serving the public. If you want to switch this over to government workers in general, I hate to do a sweeping generalization, but you may have a point, but again, it's difficult to prove, right? It's one person's word while I'm sick against another person's word while you're not, right? It's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, we can look at it from an anecdotal point of view that you're probably correct with it. But it's kind of harsh to just throw a can of paint at it and say, well, all people who claim sickness in the government are not sick, right?
I didn't say all of them. I just said a higher percentage of them. Okay,
yeah.
let's switch then. Okay, let's switch to this. Nainesh Kotak is with me, founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law. If, in fact, you are experiencing burnout and the more dangerous aspect that becomes maybe a form of mental illness, suicidal thoughts, I think that some of our frontline workers are dealing with that, with PTSD. How do they go about trying to get help and get some sort of disability benefit? Right.
So most of those professionals will have a disability plan through one of the major disability insurers. And the important thing is, you need an ally, obviously, in your family physician. Those symptoms should be reported on a regular basis to your doctor. Every time you go to the doctor, whether it's virtual or call or in person, they make a note about what you say. So it's important to actually report your symptoms. A lot of people keep it to themselves, but don't tell the doctors. Get referred to specialists. I know it's hard to see them, but it's, at least get on that waiting list. And then you have an ally in the medical profession. So your application for short-term disability, how it begins is you've got an employee statement, you've got an employer statement, and you've got a physician statement. The physician statement is crucial because they're going to address your limitations and whether or not you're able to do the essential tasks of your employment or not. So that's how you'd start the process to go about applying. And usually short-term disability can transition into long-term disability if you've been paid for 16 weeks or 6 months, whatever the insurance policy is, then it could transition to long-term disability benefits. Sometimes for workplace issues, there's the potential WSIB claim as well, even for PTSD. There was legislative change done by the Ford government a few years back that for first responders, that if there is PTSD, there'll be a presumption it did originate from the workplace. So you could potentially have a WSIB claim in addition to a private group insurance claim as well.
All right. I'm talking to Nainesh Kotak, founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law. Our frontline workers, who I think most people would understand, especially people in hospitals and maybe the people with the ambulances, et cetera, are really dealing with an unusual situation over the last couple of years. Are they finding it difficult to get the help they need?
I think so. I have a number of claims from nurses that have been denied or terminated. Again, mental illness, as much as we recognize it nowadays in society, we have mental health awareness months, etc. The problem is it's invisible, and there still is a stigma attached to these to such illnesses. And it's very easy for insurance companies to deny claims because, again, it's invisible in the sense that you can't find it on a scan. It's self-reported. So these are what's called subjective complaints that can be challenged for credibility reasons. And often they're denied. Someone doesn't, they don't want to go on antidepressants. They don't want to take anti-anxiety medication. So they may deny the claim on the basis that you're not seeking the appropriate treatment for your condition. And that's always a catch-22. People sometimes have adverse effects with these types of medications, but they should take them if they're prescribed by their doctor. You have to follow the treatment that your doctor says.
All right. Well, there's certainly an issue for frontline workers because of the heavy load that's in the hospitals, first of all, and then fewer workers, it seems like. Yeah. But and then there's the whole topic of whether or not some of that could have been mitigated against by people who run the healthcare system and the politicians. And I believe that there could be, but that's not your end of it. Nainesh Kotak is the founder of Kotak Personal Injury Law. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. Take care.